Hi guys, time for the next video in my Pagan Basics series. This one is going to be about magical books. And I don't mean magical books as in books that you're going to purchase and read, but magical books as in books that you may choose to keep throughout your practice. There are 3 types of magical books that you may or may not choose to keep. You may choose to combine them all into one, or whatever setup you find works best for you. But there are in fact 3 books. The first one is the Book of Shadows. You also have the Grimoire and the Book of Mirrors, or Book of Reflections, I've also heard it called. Each of these books has a different use, and as I said, may or may not be kept in one combined book, but they can also be kept separately. My personal setup, my Book of Shadows and my Grimoire are in one, big 3-ring binder, which I don't have handy, so I can't show you. I'll go through it at another time, but it is, my Book of Shadows is really the first half of the book, and then the second half has my Grimoire in it. So although they're in the same binder, they're separate. They're not integrated. And then also I keep my Book of Mirrors, which is just a simple journal that I picked up at the dollar store for, $1.50 or whatever. And I keep next to my bed, and when I get up in the morning, I can jot things down. But what is the purpose of all 3 of them? Okay, your Book of Shadows is really a witch's or a coven's workbook. It's going to contain all of your information. Anything that is, let's say, non-personal, usually. This is going to be mythology, history, correspondences, ritual setup, any instructions that you would want, information, all of that goes into your Book of Shadows. If you go to pass down this information, this is things that would help someone else learn your path and would educate someone else and further their path, okay? Your Grimoire is your book of words. This is the book that you're going to write your spells, your chants, your songs, your poetry, whatever it is, your prayers, all of that goes in the Grimoire. And the reason to keep them separate, the reason I feel it's important to keep them separate, is because spells, chants, songs, that type of thing is really best if you put your energy into it. Okay, one thing you will not see on this channel is examples of spells or whatnot that I have written, because I really believe that it is best for you to go out and you to write those things for yourself. That puts your energy into that. So I would not want to pass my Grimoire on, because I feel that it is best for someone not to rely on my work, but to create their own. Where my Book of Shadows is simply information. It is meant to educate me, educate someone else. I would be fine passing that on, no question. Now, the Book of Mirrors or Book of Reflection is more of a journal type book. And most people I've talked to keep it as a journal. They actually do, the date, and I don't think I've ever heard anyone doing Dear Book of Mirrors, but I guess you could if you wanted to do it that way. But that's where you're going to keep anything that you feel needs reflection, anything that you may want to go back and look at later. You're going to keep your dream journal in there. You're going to keep a journal of any divination that you do, visions that you have. I know some people keep paranormal experiences in there. If you are doing meditation and you get any messages through that, you're going to want to keep those in there. Anything that you may want to go back to at a later date and say, okay, what did this mean? How has this related to what has happened since then? For example, something that actually just happened to me that I wrote in there was, I have my bedroom is in the corner of my house, and I actually had a bird fly into the window from one direction one day, which I always get a little freaked out when the birds fly into my windows, but I wrote that down. And then 2 or 3 days later, I actually had a bird that was sitting outside the opposite, the window on the other side of the house. that was sitting there and just tapping on my window. So it felt to me as if there was some sort of message here that I needed to be getting. And I, of course, took both of these down and said, you know, come back to this. This is something I need to come back to and refer back to when I figure out what that message is. Now, I may not figure out what the message is, but it is something that is worth noting. So I wrote it down, and I can go back to it later. Now, if you choose to keep all of these books, if you don't choose to keep them all, that's your choice. But they are something that help most people's practice, I have found, and they certainly have been a benefit to my own. So take that for what you will. Blessed be.